Hello, and welcome to Searching for Service, brought to you by Rotary District 5950 and 5960. I'm Kelly Kirk.
And I'm Joe Kirk.
And before we dive into who our special guest is today, Joe is going to remind us of our purpose.
The purpose of Searching for Service is we really wanted to align both Rotarians and non-Rotarians to service opportunities. And what better way to do that than to have amazing people on the show talking about the service projects that they've done, the nonprofit work that they do, the different organizations or roles that they have done within Rotary to help inspire not only Rotarians but non-Rotarians to serve. So that's really what we're all about, Kelly.
Love it.
I think we've been doing a heck of a good job too.
I couldn't agree
Great
more.
stories.
Well, let's dive into who our guest is, our special guest for today. We want to welcome Terry Ziegler, who is past president for the Rotary Club of West U in Houston, Texas. Welcome, Terry.
Thank you. Good to be with you.
Of Texas.
And Terry chuckles. Welcome, Terry. We're very happy to have you on, and we spoke beforehand, and we're excited to get to know you a little bit here in this first segment. And so, let's start off by sharing with our listeners, how is it that you got intertangled in with Rotary?
Intertangled.
So I guess like a lot of Rotarians, my relatives, my dad and my brother were both Rotarians before me, and I sort of grew up with it to some extent. That's kind of how I became a member of Rotary.
Wonderful.
Do you remember them modeling anything? Did you get like the big grab? No. You're coming to Rotary today. You wanted to go and play outside with your friends, and you got the Rotary call instead.
No, I can't remember too much of that. I know that my dad and brother didn't want me to be in their club. So they wanted me to be in a different club, which I'm not sure why that was. But
why is that, Terry?
Well, I think they just thought that it'd be, for one thing, my dad and I worked together. So he thought it'd be better if we weren't both gone at the same time. Maybe that was part of it, but he thought it'd be a different experience. My brother and my dad were both in the Rotary Club of Houston, which at that time was the world's largest club. They had over 1,000 members, and so it was a very different experience from most Rotary clubs. So I was in a Rotary Club of about 50, and which is still fairly large. And
it is. I mean, 1,000 to 50, though.
Right.
You've got to have like an auditorium.
You do. It's a big difference.
Members.
Yeah. So anyway, I think that was the main reason. But yeah.
Yeah, legacy is a common reason why people join Rotary. And then you also had mentioned that the pathway into Rotary leadership was kind of an unconventional one. You mind sharing that story?
So I've been a member of two different clubs, and the original club I was with, I was only in for a short period of time. And like many new Rotarians, I really didn't have any idea why I was there. And, but I went to the meetings and was just kind of there. And then I was approached with the fact that our treasurer of our club apparently was in some financial trouble and had been stealing money from the club.
Oh,
which was, it's pretty shocking. It's not a normal thing for Rotarians to do. And so I was asked if I would fill in for the rest of his year as treasurer, because I was a business person and, I could handle that. So I agreed to do that.
You didn't take money.
Yeah.
I didn't think I'd take money. Yeah. And, but what they didn't tell me was that club was one of the clubs that kind of had a progression of leadership. So once you agreed to be treasurer, then you agreed to be secretary the next year, and then vice president the next year, and then president-elect the next year, and then president the year after that.
Yeah.
But once I was told that, I kind of thought, well, I probably won't be in the club that long anyway. So, so who cares? So that was kind of my first movement into Rotary and being a Rotary Club president. And then in my second club, I had moved, and we decided to move to a different club. And that club, I was again only in for a short period of time when the guy that was the president-elect of the club made an announcement at the meeting that he was going to have to move for his job. And so we were going to be without a president coming in. And I specifically remember leaning over to the lady that was sitting next to me and said, boy, they're going to have to do something about that pretty quick because, the president-elect training was coming up in a month or so, and we didn't have anybody to go. And we were a fairly young club at the time. So I had no idea that could involve me, but because I had been president before, they decided I would be a good choice to be president again. And it was the centennial year of Rotary, which I thought was kind of special. So that's probably the reason that I agreed to be president again for the second time. And so that's my two paths there were both kind of happenstance, I guess.
Did you have a moment when you were saying that out loud that second go around and get this ping that they probably were going to approach you?
No, I really didn't have any idea they would approach me when that happened. I assumed that they'd pick another one of their members that had been a member for a long time. So
did they tell you have to drive the president-elect to the training, and then you just figured out that nobody else was in the car with you?
Well, it was pretty close to that. Yeah.
What was your first memory of a service project that you had done? What was your first service project that you completed?
Oh man. The first big service project that we did was I was invited to be part of a committee that dealt with patients coming to the medical center. Some of you may know that the Texas Medical Center is a huge operation. I think there are 250,000 employees at the Texas Medical Center. And so we have patients that come from all over the world. And some of those have an association with Rotary, either they're Rotarians or they're family of Rotarians. And our district governor would get called all the time asking if they could help out these people, and they didn't have time to do that. So our committee took on that role. Well, we learned about some children that were in Guyana who had some serious medical issues. They had drunk caustic soda, which is lye. It's the same thing as lye, and which is a byproduct or used in the production of aluminum in a plant down there. And when they did that, of course, it just eats up your esophagus and so you have to be fed with a tube or intravenously, and very serious situation. So there were several kids that had that, and we brought those kids to the medical center and had operations which were totally paid for by the Texas Medical Center, and that would have been hundreds of thousands of dollars, and rehabilitation that lasted maybe 6 months or a year for both of those kids. And so anyway, that was kind of the first real big major project that I can remember.
It was a heck of a project.
I was gonna say that is quite the project in itself, but then the emotional state that that you're experiencing as you're witnessing these children.
Well, I'm just thinking, I picked up trash.
Yeah, I know. That was my.
Well, I'm sure there were some things like that. I just don't remember those littler projects.
That was the one that stood out the most, right?
But yeah.
Wow.
And then in the second club, I also we had some. We're a very active club, and we actually pride ourselves on the fact that we have more than one service project a day, because we pick up bagels at a bagel shop Monday through Friday and take them to homeless shelters. Wow. And we also have a project where we pick up food from restaurants and grocery stores that's in association with another organization that saves all that food, and we take it to various homeless centers and things. So those are both great.
Did you find that doing a project that was almost daily was beneficial? Is it beneficial for engagement for your members, and obviously an impact as well to the community?
Yeah, absolutely. I guess what you find, especially the larger club you're in, you have people that have all different interests, and and some of them have an interest and can do that. Of course, you have to be able to get away during the day to do it, and then others don't. Others have an interest in some other area, and but yeah, we definitely found that there were some people that really engaged with that and have kept at it for years.
Yeah, I feel like that one of the challenges for clubs is trying to figure out what the right frequency of service projects is, and I'm in that camp. I'm like like all the time, just get into the rhythm.
Yeah,
right.
And come as you are and as you can, right?
And invite people.
Yeah,
right.
Invite
yeah, perfect. Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's
the whole purpose of the show.
Those are great projects to where you can invite somebody to go along with you, and they can see what Rotary's doing, and maybe they might want to be a part of it. So,
yeah.
So collectively, how many years have you been a part of Rotary?
So I started in 1983. So this is my 40th year.
Wow.
So
nice work. That's a good stretch.
Yeah.
One question before we go to the break. How long have you had the mustache?
Yeah.
I've had the mustache since, I guess I've had the mustache since pretty soon since I got out of college, which would be the middle 70s. So yeah. So if I was to cut it off now, no, I don't think anybody'd have any idea who I was.
They wouldn't recognize you.
No.
Love it.
That's really awesome.
Well, it's been really great just hearing your background of how you got intertangled into Rotary.
We're going to use that one now.
In this next segment, we're going to learn a little bit more about some of the different pathways that from Rotary that you are a part of. We're looking forward to it. As a reminder, you are listening to Searching for Service. I'm Kelly Kirk.
And I'm Joe Kirk. We'll see you in the next segment.
Hello and welcome back to Searching for Service, brought to you by Rotary District 5950 and 5960. I'm Kelly Kirk.
And I'm Joe Kirk.
As a reminder, you can find us on your favorite podcast platforms. And
make sure to like, comment, share, and you can always find the podcast by looking up Searching for Service.
There we go. You didn't.
We did it.
You did.
We figured it out. We didn't say searching.
Yeah.
In Searching for Service. Not to make it. We just did it. Chad, if you're out there listening, we did it.
Earmark this right here. Earmark it.
We've been trying to come up with a line that's different than searching. Go ahead and searching for service.
So we'll earmark that.
We're excited.
Okay, if you are tuning in for this second segment of Searching for Service, we have on Terry Ziegler, who is the past president of Rotary Club of West U down in Houston, Texas. The beauty of our show is that we're
everywhere.
Yeah, Rotary is everywhere, domestically and internationally. And so it's always amazing to have guests on from other parts of the country.
Yeah, Terry's going to share this with all of his Rotary members, and they're all going to subscribe and give us 5-star reviews.
Yes.
Absolutely.
Terry's jotting notes down. All right. I have some obligations here now. So our last segment, we took some time to get to know Terry, and we learned about how he got involved in Rotary, and I also heard about one of the most prominent service projects. But there was another one that he wanted to share with us that actually happened during the centennial year,
which would have been Rotary. Your president year too, right?
That's right.
Yep.
Let's go ahead and dive into that. You can go ahead and take it away.
Yeah. Well, after we wanted to do a large project, which Rotary kind of encouraged every club to do something that was permanent and even involved a building, which is normally something the Rotary doesn't encourage because it creates ownership issues. If you build a building for another organization, they could immediately just sell it and be done with it. But but in this case, they encourage that. So we decided to partner with our local Little League and build a new press box and restroom facility, which might not seem like a big deal, but the reason that they wanted to do that was so that they could start what's called a challenger league, which is a league for special needs children ages 6 to 18 to play baseball. And so they started so they built these ADA accessible restrooms, primarily so that could happen. When the dedication for that building happened, Barbara Bush was invited, and Neil Bush actually also came for the inauguration of that building. And I guess it was as a result of that we got invited to play a baseball game on the White House lawn with another challenger baseball team. So they built a baseball field right on the White House lawn. President Bush and Laura were there, as well as a number of other congressmen. They had ESPN film the game. The head of the Major League Umpires Association was there to be the umpire, which every player gets on base and scores. So you don't really need an umpire, but we all have umpires there. So it was quite a day, and that we got to do on the White House lawn there. And then after the game, actually during the game, the Astros happened to be in town, and the Astros gave us tickets to the Astros and Nationals game that night. And then during the game, Andy Pettit, who was one of our pitchers at the time, came and was our pitcher for the or maybe he was the catcher. I can't remember which. But anyway, he participated in the game. And we had 3 other Hall of Fame baseball players there also at the game. So it was an incredible experience there we got a tour of the White House by a Secret Service agent who lives in West University, where our Rotary Club is. And so it was quite and then the White House chef served us hot dogs and hamburgers there on the White House lawn afterwards. So
what a delicatessen.
Delicacy.
Delicacy.
That's right. You're coming up with all kinds of new words today.
So it was quite an experience, and we got you can imagine that we got quite the public relations out of that, because we had lots and lots of press. I was on the television and newspapers and all sorts of things as a result of that project. So, and we've continued that on. We actually work at the concession stand for the 5 Challenger baseball games each spring every year since then.
You literally took it right out of my mouth, because I was like, Rotary is really into sustainability. So, is that press box and restroom still in service? And then
Absolutely.
you guys sound like that you're still involved in the in helping with the organization. So that's really cool. That's so cool.
I guess this is another Rotary thing, I guess, but I guess I should mention that we committed more money than we actually had to donate to it. So we had to raise the money to make sure that we could pay them when we said we were going to, but we did that without any trouble.
So the really amazing thing that I'm taking away from this is we have not even gotten to why Terry is on here. Like, we've just talked about the service projects, right? And all of the different opportunities and experiences. If you are a Rotarian, or if you're not a Rotarian and you're interested, like, think about kind of that trajectory. I cannot talk, apparently. It's hard. Trajectory of becoming a Rotarian, getting involved. Maybe you go the pathway of leadership, but maybe you're not even doing the pathway of leadership, and you're just involved in these service projects, and where that can lead you to. It's incredible.
Well,
incredible.
I like too that you just never underestimate the connection of Rotary to whatever.
Yeah.
I mean, it sounds like the connection to Rotary with the Astros, with, like, there was a connection with each step that got you to the White House lawn.
I know. I was just going to say, you might just find yourself one day on the lawn of the White House. Well, so let's talk. We've got, about 3-4 minutes here, but let's talk about some of these other roles that you have within Rotary. One of which is the editor for the newsletter for polio eradication. So you do the updates for this. Let's talk about that, how you stepped into doing that as the editor, and what's the frequency of it, the distribution of it.
Yeah, so I was asked to be our district's polio chair back in 2005 or 6, I guess that was. And I decided that one of the things we really needed was some sort of a vehicle to get the information out to our own clubs in our district. So I came up with the idea of making this newsletter and then hoping that every club would appoint someone to be their polio chair in their club, and I would send them this newsletter. Well, we have some Rotary leaders in our district that didn't understand that concept, I guess, and they pretty soon brought me a big list of people that wanted to receive the newsletter. And so I started adding people to it, and then kind of lost control kind of after that. So now it goes to, I have about 1,000 people. It's a free newsletter that goes to anybody that wants to receive it. Most of them are Rotarians. A few are vaccine researchers or all kinds of people.
Oh, okay.
And it goes to everybody from the Rotary International president, Gordon McAnally gets it to our club chairs, and then to district leaders and club leaders all around the world that have asked to receive it. They've heard about it somehow or another, and they've just asked me to put their name on the list. So that's kind of how that happened. And it's a weekly update. I get the numbers primarily from the Global Polio Eradication Initiative, who puts out the numbers each week. But then I also hear things from Rotary. I hear things from people. I have friends that live in Pakistan that give me things about what's happening in Pakistan, that kind of thing. So
if one of our listeners wants to subscribe to this newsletter, how can they get in contact?
Yeah, well, I can give you my email address. I don't know if you want to do it right here on the air or.
Yeah, let's do it on the air, and then we'll also link it into the show page as well.
So I'm in the lumber business, and so my email address is just big Z, like Ziegler Z, lumber at AOL.com.
AOL.
Yeah, so that's you
if
can tell
need
that's
any
been around.
People, sounds like you got a guy.
Okay.
Yeah, well, I since I have all those subscribers, I hate to change it, and although I keep hearing that AOL is going to go out of business, but they keep being bought by bigger people, so I guess they'll be around. So.
We'll be okay. Don't
Perfect.
worry.
Yeah. So anybody that wants to subscribe, just drop me an email, and I'll be happy to add them to the
Wonderful.
list.
Well,
And we will link that in the show page as well.
Okay.
So
Good.
You might get an influx of emails.
I know.
Well, that's fine.
That's the plan.
I was actually thinking that I would get subscribed to it.
Sure.
Well, yeah, that's kind of. I was like, obviously. Yeah.
Wonderful. Well, we only have about 30 seconds left here. So I think for the next segment,
I think it's really quick. We have 30 seconds. Why don't you share what you're most proud of that newsletter?
I think I'm most proud 2 times when I hear back from somebody, obviously, that says I share it with this group. Mm-hmm. I get an email every once in a while from somebody like in Denmark or somewhere that'll tell me I share this with thousands of people, the whole country of Denmark that are Rotarians, and things like that. I guess that's the thing that makes me continue on. I have had Rotary leadership has guaranteed me that I could stop this several years ago when we were going to be done. So I really didn't intend to do this for quite this long, but now I feel like I have to go until the ends, which I think is
I was going to say, hopefully the end is soon, though.
Right.
Yeah, exactly.
Speaking of the end, we are at the end of this segment. So, Kelly, take us out of here.
You are listening to Searching for Service. I'm Kelly Kirk.
And I'm Joe Kirk. And we'll be right back.
Hello and welcome back to Searching for Service, brought to you by Rotary District 5950 and 5960. I'm Kelly Kirk.
And I'm Joe Kirk.
And as a reminder, you can find us on your favorite podcast platforms.
And you can find us by searching for service. I didn't do it the right way this time.
Our producer's laughing at us right now.
We have to take that little clip and literally write that down.
We're going to write it down.
Bring a thesaurus in there. For different words for searching.
But go ahead and leave us a comment, a like, a share, and 5-star reviews are always appreciated.
If you are tuning in for our third segment of Searching for Service, we have our guest, Terry Ziegler. He is the past president for Rotary Club of West University in Houston, Texas.
Yeah, it was really funny off air. We were talking about all the different clubs that use kind of a similar
university, met at a university club. Also, he had the word university in their club name too. So that's fun, Terry. So you have to be very specific. It's Rotary Club of West University. This is where we meet. This is the time. This is the day.
But you know what? Go to any of the Rotary clubs. It's fine.
Yeah.
Right.
Exactly. No, Terry would say, no, come to ours. Come and visit ours, right?
Right.
Terry?
We're the best.
So our last segment, we talked about your role as editor for the Polio Eradication Update Newsletter. And I am certain that you have many amazing stories that have come across your table for that newsletter itself. So what is one that stands out to you the most that you would like to share with our listeners?
Yeah, so one of the great things about being the polio newsletter editor during all this time is that I've met hundreds of polio survivors, and they're all such special people. One of the things I've learned is that the polio survivors in the United States are without a doubt, as a group, higher achieving than the average population, and kind of the reason for that is that they got polio, most of them in the 1950s. Early 1950s was the kind of the last big outbreak, and there was a little bit different mindset maybe in the day. But I've had several of them tell me that their parents told them something like, "You've got problems. Hey, everybody else has got problems. Just get over it." And then told them,
sounds about right for that era.
Exactly, and told them, "You're not going to be a football star, so you better do good at school. And you better get a good job because you're going to have medical expenses when you get old." And so those are great ideas, I think. And a lot of these people took that to heart, because so many of the people that I've met that are polio survivors are doctors or bankers or lawyers, or, just have big high paying jobs. So that, sure. I think that's great. One of the other people that I met that was such a great story, I thought, was he came up after a Rotary Club meeting where I spoke about polio and said, "I'm a polio survivor, and I got polio when I was 5 years old." And he said, "One day I was laying in bed after he was initially paralyzed by polio." And he said, the telephone rang, and he said, nobody answered it. And he says, "That never happened at my house." But he said, "My mother had gone outside for some reason." And he says, "I reached over to pick up the telephone and I fell right down on the floor, couldn't move my legs." And he said the doctor had been by earlier that day and had basically told them that he'd done what he could do. And he says, this was my 5-year-old mind. He says, this was the first time that I realized that he didn't mean that, like with a cold, that I would get better in a week. He meant that he had done all he could do, and I was going to be like this for life. And he said he said, "I never cried so hard as I did that day when I came to that realization that he meant that, that I was going to be paralyzed like this for life." Turns out that he wasn't paralyzed for life, but he had the post-polio syndrome things that that the polio survivors have. And I just thought that was a great story that, when you think about that most people don't ever have anything that they don't get better from. But polio is one of those things that's an incurable disease, really. And so once you have it, you have the effects of it one way or another. So, yeah.
That's a really good point, that, a lot of the things that we get inflicted with get better. Some don't, but
right.
A lot of times you get it, you get a cold or you get sick, you get some kind of usually we can fix it. And just that realization of like, oh man, this is kind of the road.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
So let's make the best of it.
Pave it well.
Right. Exactly. Well, so some of these stories have been absolutely incredible. And we also have knowledge that there are a few other roles that you have played as well. One of which is, and correct me if I am missaying this or misstepping on it, but so you're a trustee for Second Wind Foundation, which is a charitable arm for Books for the World, correct?
Right.
Yeah, tell us a little bit about Books for the World for our listeners that are not aware of its existence.
Yeah, so one of our members went to South Africa in 2000, shortly after apartheid, and the government there had just mandated that every community had to have a school, but the government couldn't afford books for the schools, and so they said, we're going to have a tremendous need for books. Our district governor that was down there said, well, we throw away books by the thousands here, especially when school districts take them out of date, or and just individuals do. And so he said, we could provide you with more books than you could possibly use. And we sort of started a competition at that time and started sending container loads of books these are library books, children's books, and educational books. And we started sending containers of them down there. They in Johannesburg initially, and then later in Durban and a couple other places in South Africa. And then after that, Rotary clubs in other parts of Africa started asking for books. And so we started shipping them there. Of course, it works because Houston is a port. So we put books in containers, sort through them, put books in containers, and ship them to Rotary clubs that are wanting to do literacy projects around the world. And now we send almost half of them to other places around the world. And it's gotten to be a very large project where we've, before COVID at least, we were shipping, we shipped about 40 containers the year before COVID. So almost one a week. And we use interactors, which is kind of Rotary and high school, as our main workforce, which is a wonderful thing when we have the work days, and interactors from all over the Houston area come together to do these work days to separate and palletize the books. And that's we were slowed down by COVID, but we're hoping we'll be back up to full strength here in another few months.
Do you guys have any idea of how many books you've sent?
Yeah, well, we've sent something like 16 million books. Yeah, so about 400 40-foot shipping containers of books. So yeah, it's a huge number of books. And we've had times when we've thought, well, this is kind of it. We're going to run out of books, because some of the schools are going to more electronic things and not having books. But every time we decide that, then all of a sudden we start getting more books. So one of the things that happened here a few years ago was that the price of recycled paper went below zero. And so some of the school districts were recycling the books for the amount of money that they would get for the recycled paper. But when they had to pay to do that, they'd rather give the books to us. So, so we started getting truckloads of books from the school districts.
Very cool. Have you guys gotten any feedback on impact of the books? Yeah,
we require that really to all the recipients, for them to send us pictures of them receiving the books and the kids using the books. And we've heard all kinds of stories about increased grades and just increased participation. Some of these areas really have had very few books. In fact, we've heard stories of them tearing the books in half so that each child could have their own book, because these children have never owned their own book before. And so, that's a big deal to them.
I'm always fascinated by the things that we just take for granted. Like, we've got our bookshelves full of books and
our Audible and
just a huge part of the world that just was like, I just want a half a book.
Yeah.
Right.
Half of a book, and they are happy. They're more than happy. It's, yeah, the stories and the impacts of the stories that we have heard in starting the Searching for Service show has been incredible and very enlightening too. So it's kind of a good perspective for individuals to go, you know what, life is good. We've got an incredible life here, and to be grateful for that, but even more grateful to be able to have the opportunity to give back and see the progress for the give back that we are doing too.
Right. Well, and I'm curious in your feedback, is there a specific type of book that gets recommended or like they want? Like, are they kids books, educational books, fun books? Like, is there something that you're getting feedback on of like, okay, we just can't get enough of, Twilight. I don't know.
This genre.
Well, I guess we found the opposite. We found that there's a big variety of books that people want. I mean, obviously there's always a need for children's books. They always want children's books because they want to start their children reading early. And so we do hear that, but we also hear, man, we love the romance novels. We, just all those kind of things that the adults pick up the books and they're really appreciated. So that and the, and the educational books that we send down, we know are used too, where, whether it's, chemistry books or, we do sort through the books and try to pick out things that we don't think, they don't really need that many Texas history books,
right?
Or that sort of thing. So we try to not send, as, some of those things that we get. And we get all kinds of things donated. We get things that obviously no one would want to read, like books of legal documents and things, that people just wanted to donate because they wanted to get rid of them.
Well, and you've got the filtration that happens too. So we're going to wrap up this segment, and in the next one, we'll talk a little bit more about the future of each of these roles. I'm Kelly Kirk.
And I'm Joe Kirk.
And you're listening to Searching for Service. Hello and welcome back to Searching for Service, brought to you by Rotary District 5950 and 5960. I'm Kelly Kirk.
And I'm Joe Kirk.
As a reminder, in our last segment here, you can find us on your favorite podcast platforms, and
we do love those 5-star reviews. So make sure we get a 5-star review. And searching for service. I can't remember how I said it.
It was so good. It really was. All right. If you're tuning in for this last segment for the first time, we have guest Terry Ziegler, who is past president for the Rotary Club of West University down in Houston, Texas. And after each of our segments, we just keep finding out more and more and more about Terry.
We just keep
he's just the gift
peeling the onion.
Keeps on giving. And so for this last segment, we're going to talk a little bit about one of those other roles that came up, Terry, which was the endowment and major gift advisor for the Rotary Foundation. And fun fact, which I'll actually have you share that fun fact about how many there are in the world.
Yeah, so there's about 30 of those in the world, and it's a 3-year term. Mine ended last a year ago, July the 1st. And each of us deals with professional fundraisers that work for the Rotary Foundation. And our goal is to increase the number of large cash or stock gifts to the Rotary Foundation, and then also to increase the number of larger bequests to the Rotary Foundation. And so that's kind of what we talk about with people. And the professional fundraisers will provide the expertise. And if somebody wants to speak to somebody that's a Rotarian, which sometimes they do, to talk about, what would you do if you were in this situation? That's where we came about. So that's what I did. And what I always thought was the most interesting thing about that was the fact that you had a broad diversity of people that wanted to make a substantial gift to Rotary, whether that was in their will or cash. And some of those people were of very modest incomes, but they had been Rotarians for a long time, and they had such a passion for Rotary that this is one of the things that was one of their life goals, was really to make a gift, whether that was to give their house when they passed away to Rotary, or whether it was a cash gift of something, or maybe money that they had inherited or whatever to Rotary. And of course, there were a lot of people in the middle there that are probably what I would call normal Rotarians that maybe had thought about doing a larger gift when they're retired, or when they, their life circumstances changed. But also, I dealt with a number of, quite wealthy people. And I was always amazed that several of them told me, there's not really a cause in Rotary that I especially support, but I'd be willing to give maybe $1 million or $2 million just as part of my routine philanthropy. So you just never knew.
Thank you very much for your meager.
Absolutely, and maybe there'll be more later on. So
yeah, exactly.
So that's but that was an interesting job because of that, because you met so many passionate people and so many people that gave in all different ways.
Very cool.
It
Very
is.
cool.
Like I said, Terry, you're just the gift that keeps on giving with all of these roles that you've had within Rotary. But that'll happen when you've served how many years again?
Yeah, 40 years. Yeah,
40 years. So
holy smokes.
And we're just beginning over here. We're just rookies in the game of Rotary. So that's okay. We're waiting.
For yourself.
We're waiting for the little taps. Actually, Joe had his little tap already. So
stop.
We'll see.
Terry, let's talk about the future. So I'm hoping that you don't have to write your newsletter for much longer, because we'll eradicate polio. But what's the future for you and Rotary look like? What kind of roles are you going to be playing?
I guess I've always found that fundraising is something that not everybody likes to do, but I kind of do, because I see the great impact that Rotary makes with the money that they raise. So whether we give to the annual fund and it comes back in the form of global grants, where clubs come up with these amazing water or health or peace or environmental projects, or our club is currently involved in a fundraising effort for the disaster response fund for Ukraine. And I attended my wife and I attended the Rotary International Convention in Melbourne and here a few weeks ago, and the Ukrainian contingency was there. Ukraine, the Rotary clubs in Ukraine membership has grown by about 30% since the war started, which is incredible. And they're still doing amazing things there. And they talked about all the things that they need, which is almost everything. But about the fact that they could actually manufacture it or buy it less expensively in Ukraine than you could ship it to them from the United States. So what they really need is support of that disaster response fund, where they could access those funds directly, and they know exactly what they need right now. So our club is doing that, and I'm kind of leading that effort now. And so I can see how those kind of things won't ever stop. There's always a need.
There is always a need
for other things. When Rotary started the disaster response fund, I thought, it immediately ran out of money, because they didn't anticipate, I think, the fact that there's always disasters. So anyway, that's something that I think I'll probably be involved with. And the Books for the World is another one that's ongoing, that we're continue to be involved in that.
Yeah. Do you have any aspirations, or does the organization have any aspirations to continue to expand or expand its level of what so right now they're giving books. Is there any expansion talks of other types of materials or things that help support the educational component of it?
Not really. We do ship some desks and things like that sometimes. But the problem with shipping other things is that there are customs issues. If you start shipping other things along with the books, then you wind up with in the foreign country, they have enough trouble getting the things out of customs in those foreign countries sometimes. And if you have a mixture of other things in there, sometimes it's a problem. So we have brought
simple.
We have brought librarians over here from some of those foreign countries
Okay.
to the United States to see kind of what a librarian does here, because they don't really know what they do. Sometimes if you're in a developing country kind of situation and you're just starting with your first library, you can imagine that that's a kind of a daunting thing. So
no kidding.
Yeah.
Cataloging and
Dewey Decimal
structuring.
System. I don't even think we use the Dewey Decimal System anymore, do we?
Yeah. I don't know, but yeah, it's a
it's a great
challenge.
Question. Yeah, great question. What?
Go on.
Nope. Go ahead. Go ahead.
We always like to ask our guests on our show, a lot of the people that are listening are non-Rotarians and they're just searching for service projects or to get involved in their communities. And, a lot of what we talked about is international, larger scale type services. What's your advice to somebody who's listening to this that's like, I want to get involved in my community, I want to get involved in service? How should they start?
Rotary is a lot more flexible than they used to be, and now a lot of clubs will allow someone that's not even a Rotarian to participate in their service projects. And so, I would start by, either going to the Rotary.org website. There's a club finder on there where you can find the clubs around you, or just Googling, Rotary in whatever community you're in and finding the Rotary Club and just asking them if that's possible. You might, if you want to have an interest in becoming a Rotarian, then contact them and they can tell you what's involved in that. But I know our club has we have some people that are past Rotarians. We have some people that aren't Rotarians at all that participate with us in some of the projects, and particularly Books for the World, those book sorting days that we do. We have people that come from, that don't have any association to Rotary, but they're just interested in literacy or books. And so, that's the way I would start, I think, is by contacting the Rotary Club and just ask if they can participate in a
wonderful advice.
What that club does. Yeah.
There you have it, people.
Terry, thank you so much for being on the show today. It has been absolutely astonishing to hear more about you and what you've done.
You're welcome. Well, it's been great, and this is a great show. I'm glad that you do this show, because I think good news doesn't get publicized very much. But so it's great to see that you put this show on.
Thanks so much, Terry. Thank you, everyone, for listening. As a reminder, it's time to stop searching